G'day, you silly pelicans. I wanted to make a quick, short, sharp video explaining the best settings to use for a controller in Apex Legends in Season 9. Now, this is a combination of my settings that I've been tinkering around with in advanced look controls, but this is also some tips and pointers that I've got from Genburten, who actually went through his own controller settings on one of his streams, that I have some screenshots here that I'd like to go through and show you all and kind of just explain what each one does and what you guys might want to try for your own settings. Okay, so I've got Genburten's settings all here to go, but what I wanted to jump in and do is just go through into the settings menu and kind of just go over what each particular setting actually means and does. When you first start off the bat, this here just shows you if you want to see more information or less information on stuff that you have to interact with. Button hints, turn it off, takes up too much of the space. Crosshair damage feedback, this is personal preference. Damage numbers, I like to have it stacking. I have a bit of a small brain, so if it can tell me the exact number at the end of how much damage I've done, it's easier to read and communicate to my teammates. Ping opacity, that's just see-through pings. This is just a kill feed. Map rotation, just leave it off. I like to change my guns when they run out of ammo myself, so I don't like the game doing that, so I turn it off. So auto sprint, I hate putting the extra pressure on my thumb, having to sprint all the time, so I just have it on. If you don't like it, you can keep it off. Double tap sprint, I don't know who would want to turn that on. That's kind of crazy. Too much effort. Jetpack control, so this obviously works for Valkyrie. I have it on toggle, which is just a default, but maybe the hold might be better for you. Have a play around with it. If you use Valkyrie, let me know what you think. Incoming damage feedback, I just have it on 3D. I think that's just the default. Doesn't really matter. Taking damage closes death box. This is pretty important. I have it turned off. So if someone shoots me and I'm trying to shield swap, it's not going to kick me out straight away and I lose my shield swap. Pop up, I just leave it on. Streamer mode, I leave it off because I don't really mind people having to find me in game. Turn it on if you want. Usage sharing, just turn it on if you want. Mine's off. Okay, so now we go into the controller settings. Now, one of the most important things here is the button layout. You can play default, that's absolutely fine. I used to play a lot of competitive Call of Duty growing up on Xbox, and I used to use my analog stick to crouch and prone, or drop shot is what it was called, or still is. So that's why I use button puncher. It's easier to slide and jump around the map. Melee is over on B, which is kind of hard. I definitely find it hard to melee people if I have my gun out. If I don't have my gun out, obviously you just shoot, so that's kind of easy. Have a look at the other ones. I think the only other real one you'd want to look at is, but if you want just a good basic setting, I'd be looking at button puncher for sure. Stick layout, I leave it as default. Interact reload button, tap and use for reload. The crouch button, toggle, it's way faster. I don't think you'd necessarily want to leave it on hold, but that's personal preference, obviously. Aim button, I definitely have this on hold. Survival slot button on, definitely, otherwise you're going to die in the zone if you want to use heat shields. That's happened to me before, for sure. Trigger dead zones, I have none, so as soon as you press the trigger to shoot, it'll instantly shoot. So menu cursor speed, I like to have it around 1/3 of the way up. I feel like that's a good speed. You don't want it to be too fast, so you're missing everything in the death box, but you don't want it to be too slow, so you can quickly get a shield swap off in the heat of the battle. Now, I have advanced look controls enabled, so that's why it's all kind of blanked out, but here you can see the settings I had before I switched. Now, this here is 5 and 3, which is a really common sensitivity setting, and I definitely would recommend it. It makes it nice and snappy to look around and turn around when you're not aiming down sight, but 3 is definitely on the lower side. It is the default, but definitely helps with utilizing your aim assist that you get on lovely controllers, and you really want to go through and maximize the aim assist that you get on controller. Especially for me, playing on PC, I verse a lot of sweaty PC players that are really good at the game. Their movement is really good, so I obviously need to maximize my aim assist to help me out. Definitely pretty useful. Don't shy away from it. Anything that makes the game slightly easier or gives you an advantage over somebody else, you want to obviously take it. I would also recommend 4 or 5 aiming down sights, but I probably wouldn't go over 4. This is really interesting. Response curve is something that I never really paid too much attention to, and it's obviously normally set on the default. Linear is exactly the raw input of your joysticks. So I would definitely recommend this. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's just more accurate and better overall. So I would definitely recommend using linear control. Look, Dead Zone. This was set here on large for me because my previous Xbox Elite version 2 controller had a pretty bad stick drift. Now that I've got a newer controller, I would definitely turn that down to small or none. Movement Dead Zone, small. Looked invert off, vibrations on. I like it. If you don't like the vibrations, turn it off. Might make it a little bit easier to aim. Okay, so now we're going to get into the advanced look controls. And I'll go through and explain a little bit of what these actually mean and are. This is where, if you've got a good controller with no stick drift, dead zones are really good. So the less of the dead zone, as soon as you touch your analog stick, it's going to actually put some input into the game. So I have 0, 2, and 0. Per optic settings, you can go through and change your 2 times, your 3 times, your 2x4, everything like that in there. Maybe we'd recommend making your 3 and 4 times scopes a little bit faster, but you don't have to worry about that too much. Now, your yaw speed is how quickly the view turns left or right. So I've got it on 320, and I feel like this is a decent number. It's snappy enough to move from left and right, but it's not too much that you're going to overhit your target or overturn your target, but it's also not slow enough that you're a grandma turning around and you're going to get shot before you can even face them, basically. Your pitch speed is exactly the same as your speed, but up and down. So it's traditionally a little bit lower, just because you're looking up and down less. So turning extra yaw, so it's actually how much you move your stick will actually change the speed of which you turn around. So on 0, it just keeps the same movement looking from left and right, no matter how far you have your stick to your left or your right. But if you were to have it up, it means that the further you have your stick out to the right, the faster it'll turn around. I kind of like it being the same all around, so I leave it on 0 for all of it. This is the aim down sights yaw speed, so it's exactly the same as the yaw speed we were looking at previously, but this is now aiming down your sights. I like to keep aim down sights sensitivities a little bit on the lower side because you want it to be fast enough to track a moving target, especially if they're on a jump pad or on a zip line, but you want to utilize aim assist as much as possible. And if your aim down sights sensitivities are too high, you're going to be spraying all over the place and not really utilizing that extra aim assist that you get by playing on a controller. Pitch speed is exactly the same. It's up and down instead of left to right. Have it a little bit lower. Extra stuff is exactly the same as what we were talking about before, and target compensation is literally aim assist. As it says up there in the top right, disabling this is not recommended. I would definitely not recommend this. It is your extra advantage on killing people. You may as well utilize it. Now that we've actually gone through and explained the settings and what they all mean and what they do, I actually want to go through and show you Genburtens settings. So these are some of the gameplay settings that I've got from Genburtens' stream recently. All pretty basic. Go through and use them if you like. I noticed down here the jetpack controls on toggle, so for those of you that are using Valkyrie, you might want to try Valkyrie. But this is all pretty stock standard, and I wouldn't really spend too much time on this. Okay, guys, so this is where it gets really interesting and really exciting, and this is something that you might want to try and actually change for yourself. These are the advanced look controls for Genburten, probably the best controller player on Apex Legends right now. It is debatable, obviously. He's very good. One of the best players in Australia, let alone the world. Here you can see his yaw speed is cranked all the way up to the max at 500. Same with pitch speed. So that's his left and his right and his up and down when he's looking around. Now this makes it easier for him to snap over to different enemies and different targets really fast. Give it a try. Try the max. I find it's a little bit too much for me. But as I get used to my sensitivities, I do find that I try to turn it up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So maybe start low and keep edging your way up. He has all of his yaws and everything like that turned down, just like I do. I find that having it as a nice, even, stable number across the board just makes it a little bit easier to get used to, and you don't have to worry about it being a little bit different depending on how far you have your stick. Now, the aim down sights, yaw speed, and pitch speed are the two other really important ones here. And you'll actually notice that he has them a little bit slower than me. I might even take a leaf out of his book and turn my aim down sights sensitivities down a little bit too. Again, this is to maximize your aim assist. As much as possible, you want to be able to lock onto your targets with as minimal fuss as possible. He's gone 130 for both, keeps it nice and symmetrical, keeps it the same for left and right movements and up and down movements. The extra yaw for turning and for pitch and everything like that is all set to 0. Obviously, he then has his target compensation on and melee target compensation on as well, which is basically aim assist. They're Genburtens settings. They're the settings that I would recommend playing Apex on console or on PC using a controller. I hope this was interesting. I hope this was informative. It's definitely a video that I would have liked knowing when I first started playing Apex on the first day that it came out. And even then, since then, I find videos a little bit hard and not really explaining exactly what each particular setting does. So hopefully I've been able to help somebody. I stream on Twitch Monday to Fridays, so come check us out, come say hi. That would be pretty pog. And yeah, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Hopefully see you again next time. Catch you later, guys.